I am Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
We are going to go just right back to the phone. We have got people lined up. Are you listening, Chris? Are you listening out there? You're driving in right now?
Yeah, Chris is busy. He helps out with Miracle Treat Day here in our local market, and that just such a big event. We've got some of the, well, I think we do have the world record holder for blizzards.
The number one in the country is typically Madison, South Dakota.
Yeah.
They get prepared for this all year long, and boom, they go after it.
Yeah, so just 45 minutes from us, where we're at here in the studio, is where they've got the record. So
and it's a much smaller town.
Yeah, it's quite amazing what they do up there.
Yeah. We're going right to the phone to talk to Todd. Todd with a 14 Acadia. How you doing, Todd?
Great. Thanks for taking the calls, guy. Really love the show.
Thank you.
Just love you guys' input.
What's up with that Acadia?
So AC, I had an issue a little bit over a year ago. It just lost the charge, and took it in. Service shop couldn't find a leak, so they stuck a dye in it, charged it back up, told me just to keep an eye on it. And I'm at the point now, about a year later, it's pretty much done again. So the shop now, if they can't find any external leak by using the light to kind of shine on that dye, there's a chance, my understanding is it could be somewhere in one of the fittings under the dash. I guess my question is what do you think about if he was to try this Red Angel AC stop leak?
Don't do that.
A really small leak.
Yeah, don't do that. We just had one in yesterday, and I've warned people about the dangers of using air conditioning stop leaking systems. And we had an AC machine go down, and I bought another one because, they said, no, we didn't use that. And then they said, well, I wasn't able to get it in there, so technically that wasn't it. So they came back yesterday after we got our new machine and got this car recharged, and it wasn't working. And he says, well, I don't know what you guys did. It wasn't working. Well, I took it apart, looked at the orifice tube, and it was jammed full of stop leak. So apparently enough of it got in there to just clog it up. So don't do that. But I can tell you on an Acadia, we've had a number of these come in that we've worked on. And two places we see common leaks on these. We have never seen one in an evaporator or even heard of one on one of these. So that's very unlikely that is leaking behind the dash. But the compressors leak at the compressor body, and also the rear lines under the rear of the vehicle. They're subject to a lot of road debris and things like that. So what we have done is we have purchased a very expensive sniffer that will sniff out leaks. We've always had one, but we've got a really good one to work on the 1234 YF systems, and it also works on 134.
Oh, you can use the same machine for that?
Yeah,
I had never asked you about that.
Yeah, the sniffer and our identifiers. But what we do is we charge the system. We evacuate it and we charge it. We do not run the system. So if it comes in leaking, what we would do with yours is we would just vacuum it down, recharge it, not operate the system, because we do not want oil to move through that system, because it will stop a leak temporarily. It'll cover up the hole and make it very small. And then overnight, when it settles down, it'll start leaking, just like a tire will stop leaking at some time. So we're going to let it sit on the hoist overnight, maybe if we have to, because we're going to sniff check it first after we charge it, but not running it. And if we don't find anything, we'll let it sit again through the night, and then we'll check it the next morning, because you say about a year before it's done again, so we're not going to lose that much. And we're going to go through the system front to back with the doors of the shop closed, all the fans off, no air running to disturb any air, and we're going to slowly check this system, moving just an inch at a time, going down those lines until we find it. We just did this on an expedition recently that we were not able to really find that leak until we performed it this way. And sure enough, we found it. We were able to verify it several times in a row, and it was hidden up in the back under one of the tin shields where rocks had got in there and just abraded the aluminum line enough to cause this leak. That's what we'd expect to find in a Acadia like this. That's normally where we find it.
Is in that
line
rear
set.
part where assuming this vehicle, most all of those had the rear air conditioning evaporator.
Yes. Yep.
It does.
Yeah. So I'd take a look back there. Does that help you out?
Yeah, you said the rear line's where?
The rear line set, typically between where the passenger's feet are and the rear evaporator, which is all the way in the back by the bumper. That's in that location. We've seen them all along there in more than one spot. So if they find it in one spot, continue moving until they verify the whole line is leak free other than the one spot. And they're repairable with a line repair kit. You don't have to replace the entire line unless you've got multiple leaks.
So what does something like that run?
Well, the checking it and repair is going to range anywhere from about $400 to $1,500 if they have to replace a line set. And it just depends on what shop you're at, too.
Yeah, and because, the thing that they've got tied up there is time.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on what the labor rates are in your area, they're gonna spend hours, trying to identify that system with the tools that they have. So it's going to be at least a 2-hour project just on the labor to identify. Maybe, you hope you find it in an hour, but it could be at least 2 hours spent just kind of setting it up to check it, right, Russ?
For sure.
And then after that, it's going to be the actual repair time, whatever that takes, which if someone's real good with a line repair kit, they can get underneath and repair the lines, and they can do that in an hour. And, then you've got your expensive charging and putting it back together, because that just kind of gives you an idea of the task at hand. Like you take a Caravan, they're always really popular about where the line set turns and goes up into the body. They'll corrode back in that area, but that's what a person's got to find. You can find that extra leak, and I agree that you should keep that stop leak system down to a boy. That should be pretty. Don't even do it, but maybe an emergency use. I don't know, but that's not something a person should be doing.
All right. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go right back to the phones, and we are going to talk to Jose with a 1991 Cougar. How you doing, Jose?
Hey, fellas. Good morning.
Good morning.
What's up with the Cougar?
All right, man. Trying to keep it going. Love this thing. Never left me stranded. Always keep up with the maintenance. And basically, I'm thinking I'm getting up there with old age in this thing. And basically, when I go uphill, it just sounds like I have the biggest exhaust leak.
Sure.
So I take it to I take it to the mechanic and transmission specialist to see if it might have been chatter from the torque converter. And they wound up looking at it, and they said nothing was wrong with it. Everything sounds good. The AOD just has a little whine, which is normal. And took it back to my exhaust guy that basically did my straight piping. And he says, that you have no exhaust leaks because, you have a ball and socket basically after the exhaust manifold.
Yep.
And I was always thinking, like, do I have to put those metal gaskets between the ball and socket?
No.
But he said no. So, like, okay. Oh, do you see? So when I go up the hill, it just sounds like, it's like, I don't know if I can give you the sound, guys, but it's like, and it's right behind my great exhaust. My exhaust sounds so good. Flowmaster exhaust. It sounds so good. But then I hear that up front, and I'm just like, ew, it sounds so disgusting, guys.
It might be just resonating because of the type of exhaust. I've had that before when we've done custom exhaust, and you just hear it through your floor and through the actual pipe. Nobody's hearing it outside your car, but you're inside. You're hearing it the way it resonates within the cabin, and sometimes that's changed by putting like Dynamat onto the carpet and the floor, and for sound absorption and things like that. That's why they do that on a lot of street rods. But also check your exhaust pipes real close to make sure that where the mounts are that hold the pipe to the body and the frame under there, that nothing's touching anywhere where it might be vibrating on something, or you don't have a loose motor mount or something that's causing a vibration. But other than that, that's what we look for.
I'm trying to predict on your 91 Cougar. Is that, we just got a little time here, but is that I'm trying to remember, is that a 5-liter? Is that a 4.6, or what motor's in that one?
Oh, actually, sorry about that, fellas. That's the 3.8.
3.8.
The little guy.
The little guy.
Yeah, and it's still going.
3.8s are great engines in
300K.
those, but oh wow.
Yeah.
They do sound a little different when you put exhaust on them like that. So it could be inside that it's just resonating a little bit.
Check if the noise is different, cold or hot. You can also check that too, because you could have a warp that just shows up at certain temperatures between that, exhaust manifold and the head. I mean, it's very, very possible, or maybe one or two cracked studs just with age, but typically not a problem. But if you've been driving sporty with it, you could have heated things up at some point and caused a warpage or maybe a break of a stud or something like that. So inspect that stuff really close where it matches up to the head.
Okay, because basically, so when I'm driving up the hill, people just keep telling me, "Oh, it's getting old age. You're just gonna keep hearing it." And I'm like, I know I'm in the 300K club, right?
Yep.
This thing.
You're getting up there. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I changed 3 head gaskets already. You know how that is. It's 100K, you got to change the head gaskets. And, and I don't know if it's just the valve train. I don't know if it's just valves are going bad, but I was just like, I hope not. Or
might just be age. Jose, we got to take
That's what I was thinking.
We got to take a break. We appreciate the call. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you very much, fellas. I appreciate that input.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. We'll be right back with more of the Under the Hood Show, brought to you by Sturdiments.
Did he drop an F-bomb in that last 45 seconds?
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. I am Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom. Chris Carter, he's on his way. And he better be bearing treats. Because if he's late, we figure, I don't know if I can make the treats or not. Well, if you're going to be late, this late, you better have the treats, right?
Yeah, we'll see. But I have a feeling by something that he texted that he might not have them.
See that doesn't make sense, Chris. Just you're late. Turn around, go back and get them. I don't care if it's McDonald's, dude. You gotta.
Oh no, we can't do that when it's Miracle Treat Day.
It is so. You go get your checkbook out. You buy them. There's a stop between there and here in a different town. I don't want you going to Madison there, buddy, but you can take care of it. Oh well, such is the day. We have callers, so you know what? Those are our treats right there. When we can get a caller on the phone, that's a treat for us. So we're going right to the phone, and we're going to talk to Mike in Kentucky with a 2002 Ford F-150. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right. Well, what's up with this F-150 thing?
Well, so it seems like it's only when it's hotter out, but it's acting like the transmission is slipping in like second gear. So I'm away to work in the morning after it sits all night. And granted, it's still like 75 in the morning, but you haven't had the sun heating up the asphalt and stuff. It'll drive to work, no problem. If I need to pass someone, it'll downshift and it runs good. But on my way home, after it's 90 something degrees out, either if I'm taking off from a stoplight or in a more of aggressive fashion, spirited driving, or if I'm trying to, even pulling a trailer, it seems like maybe second gear, the RPMs will climb for like 4,500, 5,000, but it just doesn't seem like it's pulling hard at all. And then as soon as it grabs the next gear, it grabs hard and goes. And the fluid's red and does not have a burnt smell to it. That was one of actually the first things I checked.
That's good that it doesn't yet, but it kind of concerns me. I am concerned a lot because it sounds to me like it is slipping, and then it's slamming into that next gear.
Yeah, it senses the slip and it's throwing the pressure high to be able to clamp down tight.
So eventually it will burn the fluid if that's what's going on. I would definitely get that checked right away. We actually had a caller last week. We were talking about something similar, which was different. We're going to give an update on later here, but the the transmissions, yeah, if they start to make a something like this where you've got a high RPM and then in gear, not just a noise between gears, we get concerned that we've got a slippage going on in there. And it could be that it's got a valve that's hanging up a little bit, a solenoid that's going bad. Sometimes a trans flush will help with that if a cleaner's run through there first in order to and then you operate the valve by driving it, of course, and get that cleaner work through there. Let it shift and clean it up, and hopefully that'll take care of it. It's definitely good preventative maintenance for sure.
Well, you can spend $100 or less and put the cleaner in there, and easily $100 or less. It may be money you don't have to spend if there is an internal transmission problem and you got to tear it out anyway, and that's kind of frustrating. But if the fluid looks good, you want to be able to get it in and make sure. In that era, Russ, on 02, you should be able to operate that and watch it on the scanner to see what the valves are doing.
See what's going on.
And a good transmission shop, repair shop, they're going to be able to hook up to that and operate it and see what's actually happening as long as it's giving those symptoms all the time.
Right, for sure.
And be able to see, are we hitting high pressure? Is it because this valve's not commanding? Is it because this valve is commanded but not operating? And it could be some parts that can be replaced inside the transmission in the truck without having to take it out. And that's what you want to hope for. I mean, that's what you're looking for. That's what you'd love for us to tell you right now, but we can't without putting some tools on it.
Is that transmission in that air? Is it is that electronically controlled?
Yes.
Or is it still very mechanical?
No, that's electronically controlled on that on an 02.
Most of the truck transmissions in all the makes and models started going to some sort of electronic valve body versus the mechanical cables and rods and everything, vacuum. They most all of them got rid of that after probably 1994, 5, 6, somewhere in there, on any make and model, pretty much on the trucks. And so by 02, you're well into the era of electronically controlled valve bodies.
Does that help you out there, Mike?
And does one last thing.
Sure.
Do you have a recommendation of a good transmission cleaner?
We use the Justice Brothers transmission cleaner. It's going to be available from professional parts people like us. At our shop, we sell it. You're not going to find it as much on the retail shelf in an auto parts store, but professionals are going to be using it in order to help their customers out in their shop. So check with your place that you go to get your vehicle worked on, see if they sell it or can get it for you. And then you'll use that. It's just poured right into the fluid, and then you drive the vehicle and operate it normally and see if it clears up. And if it does, by all means, that's the time to get it flushed while it's still in there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks for the call. All right, we're going to go back to the phones, and we're going to talk to Terrell in Mississippi with a 2000 Ford Explorer. How you doing, Terrell?
Doing good. Yeah, it's a 2020.
A 2020. You know what? I'm still living in the 00s, so all right. So we'll go with the.
You're stepping up to a newer one. You've called in before, and the Explorers you'd be working on would probably be a little bit older. So what do we got going on with the 2020?
Yeah, it's the thing is it's the AC. You can hit the off button and turn it off, and probably maybe 5-10 minutes it just turns back on its own. It's working fine and everything, but it won't stay shut off.
Oh, okay.
Look on the 4 point.
That's opposite of what we normally get. My AC won't turn off. It keeps coming back on. It's possessed.
Yeah, and I looked on the Ford forums, it's 1 or 2 people that talking about it, but no solution, You just, like I say, you turn it off, it comes back on, you turn it back off, another 10 minutes, it come back on,
Are you talking about if you push the AC button on the dash just to turn it to vent, it shuts off, but then the AC pops back on, or do you hit the off button and turn everything off and everything comes back on, the blower and all?
Hit the off button, everything, just to shut it all down, about 5-10 minutes, it come back on.
Well, I think you've got 1 or 2 problems going on with this. Either the control itself has failed on the dash, or it's something you might be able to do some programming on. It may be that something else in there through that CAN bus system is just kicking it on. So first thing I would do, if I'm in an area where if I've got the subscription already and I've got the scan tool, I'm going to do some programming. I'm probably going to reflash any module in there that has an update, because you can look at the Ford system, see what the current status of updates are, and see if anything needs to be updated, and update those modules and see what it does. Because we're working in an era now where a radio with a failure can turn that AC on if it's got a CAN bus message going through it that it's not supposed to have, because they're always communicating even when they're turned off, as long as the vehicle is running. So I would start with that, and if that doesn't take care of it, you may have to replace that AC control. This is something new I have not heard about. So since it's new and I haven't heard about it, I'm going to go out and do some research on it, because I'm curious about it.
Yeah, I was curious when you brought this up the first time. It was going to be something we commonly will see where people don't realize when air conditioning can get cycled, when you're like in an auto cycle, or if you're in the defrost setting. There's times your air conditioning can get turned on by the nature of the control system.
But this is the whole control.
Yeah, he's saying he's shutting the whole thing off and it's coming back on. That would be like, okay, this is new.
What happened?
Is that's you think you'd want the AC on, because you guys are pretty hot where you're at there, right?
Yeah, that's, like I said on the forums, not many people are talking about it, but it's out there, but I called a Ford place, they said do a hard reset on it. That did that and everything else. So.
And a program will do a hard reset on it as well. So, that might be, I just look and see if there's any updates on it, because there may be some updates and it's just getting some confusing messages going on there. All right. Well, thanks for the brain teaser here that I'm going to have to go out and rack it until I can figure out what's going on with your vehicle, because I'm interested now. All right. Take care, Terrell.
Okay.
See ya.
All right. Thanks.
That's an interesting one. Just comes on by itself. That's one of those.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what the problem is, because he's from Mississippi, and this is the time of year where that.
Well, at least it's coming on and not turning itself off every
like,
5 minutes.
Yeah, there'd be now if it gets into the wintertime and he's trying to run heat, that'd not be so good.
We're going right back to the phones. We're going to talk to Brandon in California, who has a Jeep update. What's up, Brandon?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
So I called, I think 2 months ago, about my Jeep getting hot while I was driving Spirited.
Right.
So I discovered what the problem was.
What is it?
So I was running an aftermarket, like store-bought thermostat housing. So what I discovered was the original, like the factory thermostat housing, they have taller springs, which I didn't think would make a difference. They're both 203 degree Fahrenheit thermostats, but I ran 2 of those AutoZone with Duralast thermostat housings on there, and they both caused problems. One exploded while I was driving, and the other one was causing the car to stay hot. So I put the factory one back on and just JB welded the crack for now until I can find another factory spec one.
Oh my!
Hasn't had a single issue.
Huh. Well, that does make perfect sense. Occasionally, you will get a product made in the aftermarket, no matter who makes it. We've even seen a few factory ones too. When after they roll down, if they're on the assembly line, they usually catch them, and they get something gets recalled or there's a bulletin about it. But when they start making them, let's say this was a 2005 Jeep, and the factory is getting them made now to go on their parts shelf. Well, they could have problems with them and not catch them for a while. AutoZone or any other supplier like that who is selling you the part, they have them made to specs. Well, they've got to meet those factory specs because they design them. They have engineers design these things at a certain height and all that. But somewhere along the line, something in that process failed. So I'll bet you by now they have got that fixed, and those things are getting pulled and changed in inventory so they don't have this again. But we've seen it. It's pretty rare, but over the years with all the different parts we've ordered, we've had a couple of them where something just didn't go right with that. But at least they found you found what's going on and got it fixed. That JB Weld is pretty amazing stuff. Sometimes you put it on there. If you put it on a clean and dry surface and let it dry completely, which a lot of people don't do either one of those, it'll
Everybody's in a hurry.
That and it's not leaking.
it'll
I
probably
didn't do
not
that.
leak
It's not
until
leaking.
it'll probably be good until until you have to change it out and you put the right one back in there again. So I would be interested. I'd go back and check and see if you purchase that Duralast one. I would wait late. If you'll probably return both the ones you have, but compare it to another one like a month down the road and see if it's changed. Because if it hasn't, they need to fix that, and I'm sure they would for you. But that's something, because locally here with our Sturdivant's Auto Parts, we've had problems with those parts, and I tell you what, our local rep that comes in practically begs us, come on, I need the part. I need to see what was wrong with it. I need the original one off so I can compare it, because I got to take it back to my guys so we can call whoever made it, Dorman or Pronto or whoever makes that part, Standard. We want to know and get it fixed so they can get them off the shelves, because they can't have a bunch of vehicles out there with this problem. But well, that's cool. I'm glad you got her going again.
Yeah, and I told your producer that I did have another question.
Sure, go ahead.
About a separate vehicle. My wife just got a 2012 Dodge Avenger. Her grandparents gave it to her because they didn't want it anymore. Got 69,000 miles on it. And I guess it's a pretty common issue, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts on how to fix it. The shifter will not come out of park unless you use a screwdriver to release it.
Yeah, they have most of the problems in those were in the shifters. If you step on the brake and you see all three brake lights in the rear come on, the two tail and then the high mount stoplight, if they all come on, you'll typically find it's in the shifter. We sell a number of those. Wouldn't you say we sell almost every one we come across at some point?
Later model cars, we have a good demand for floor shifters because of the fact that those solenoids can go bad, but probably the bigger problem is they just get soiled so bad. People spill coffee, pop, just the residue of life ends up inside of them, and then they just don't operate correctly. They're not moving freely enough to. There have been people that have taken them apart, just cleaned everything up really good with like a electronic contact cleaner or brake clean or something, to clean them up really good, to try to get the dirt off them.
Sometimes it works, but
most of the time you end up just getting another one.
Well, so I talked to a shop and they were like, "Oh, it's probably your brake light switch," because they're like, that's what's commonly the problem. So I did the call and check if the brake light switch is working. You can hear the solenoid clicking in the shifter. And then with the bezel off, you can see the thing moving, but it just still does not release the shifter.
If it moves, if it moves, then it's getting all the power it needs. It's just not moving far enough and disengaging in the little, there's a tang inside of there that may have broken off in that solenoid, and it's not pushing it all the way. That's a great test there, because everything's working, but it's not coming out. You're going to need at this point, you're definitely going to need a shifter for it.
Yeah. And then it also, so this car is the RT model. So it's the 3.6 liter Pentastar with the 62 TD transmission, which I was shocked to learn that it was made by Volkswagen. I didn't know Chrysler went in on Volkswagen on the transmission. That was cool. I guess they have a problem with their range sensors also.
Yep. But
on this specific car,
this one shouldn't be, because you've got that shifter's actually moving. It's clicking. If it wasn't, then it could be that not telling you that it's fully in park. But when you get any kind of movement at the shifter, it's in there.
Yeah. So the car never knows it's in park. I can't open the trunk with the button or the remote. I have a coat hanger currently hooked to the emergency escape handle, and that's the only way we're able to open the trunk right now. The car does not know it's in park at all.
That's amazing that shifter moves if it doesn't think it's in park, because that's how it senses that. It looks at that for the park system. It could have a range sensor bad for that.
Yeah. So, but what I learned about the range sensor on these transmissions, I'm not a fan of. They're in the transmission.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you got to pull the trans out and pull the valve body out.
I was like, that's a dumb design. I was like, that's some Volkswagen stuff right there.
Yep.
But then that's also why, though, that shifter could have something dirty jammed in it, or whatever, and it's just physically not getting its full range to get to park.
That's possible.
So it's saying range sensor rationality.
That's got to be replaced.
So,
if you got a rationality code, it definitely has to be replaced.
Yeah. But I mean, other than that, like the car, it drives fine. It shifts a little weird from 2 to 3. Like it act like it shifted, and it goes back to second, and then it shifts to third.
Yeah,
it's a little bit funky shifting, but other than that, the car drives fine. It's got great power. I changed the spark plugs because it was misfire. At 69,000 miles, I had a mean misfire on cylinder 6, so I changed the coils and plugs because I figured it's 11 years old. I might as well just change the coils while I got the intake manifold off or to plane them off.
All right. Well, thanks, Brandon. We gotta get to a break coming up here.
Yeah.
We appreciate the update on the Jeep, and good luck with the Avenger.
I figured I'd call you guys with the update because I remember there being a Chrysler 200 calling with the same kind of heating up for no reason issue.
Oh yeah.
And they had put multiple parts. They had put multiple parts on also. Thanks for the call today. We really appreciate it.
All right.
No
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back on the Under the Hood Show.
Thought you were never going to show up. What's this? Darcy from Dean. Oh, cool. Oh my. Yeah, very cool. You did get a chance to talk to him in the parking lot. That's good. He's been hanging out.
Yeah, he's for like an hour.
Because he had left a message yesterday on whether or not you were going to be here. And I said, yeah, you're going to be here, but then I forgot you were going to be late.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. Hi, boys. It's good to be here.
Well, we're glad you're here getting us all straightened out.
Mm-hmm. With no time left really in the hour here, we might have to take Zach after the break.
We can catch up on the next hour.
All right, let's do that. You want to do that?
Yeah.
I'm Chris Carter. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Zach. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Zach, you got about 2 minutes.
All right, I got a question. I got a 13 Ram 1500 5.7 Hemi. Just wondering, it has 79,000 miles, and I'm wondering at what point should I start doing transmissions, flush and front and rear diff and transfer case and that stuff. I don't tow a lot. I tow a fish house that's about 5,000 pounds in the wintertime for maybe 2,000 miles or so at most. So just looking for recommend.
Because of the age, you're at 10 years now. Even with lower miles, it's 10 years old. It's time to change all that. And if you keep the low miles on it from now on, you're probably good till another 10 years. But I would change all those fluids now. And I tell you what, we're getting more people now coming into our shop that are thinking about these maintenance items. More people are spending money to put engines in older vehicles now, but they're also spending more money to make sure that their vehicles last longer by doing the maintenance programs on the vehicles, from fuel injection cleanings to fluid changes, whatever it is, that to keep it from failing, to cut that expense and just the time that it takes to repair these things.
And you're asking the right questions, because like those front differentials, small capacity fluid capacities, you've got your transfer case, rear differential, all those different things that if you just put them on a schedule here over the next 6-8 months or a year, maybe it's sure nice to go in and do them all at once, but that can add up pretty quick because the fluids aren't cheap anymore. That's for sure. But you want to make sure you've got a fresh fluid with a fresh chemical package in it. And if any moisture has been taken in by the fluids, or if it's done its job, you want to be able to get that stuff all updated so it's got the capacity to handle what's ahead of it and be at proper levels. I agree. You're right at that time, not so much on the miles.
Is there anything he should be doing differently driving-wise? He's just fine, right?
Enjoy the vehicle.
Yeah. Zach, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. All right, that'll do it for me. I was here for all of 3.5 minutes on the Under the Hood Show. It's good to be here.
Good to see you.
Hour 2's coming up. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show, brought to you by Sturtevant's.
Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. What's caught your attention in the automotive world? Shannon, I know you almost got a ticket over the weekend.
Yeah, I just about did. Yeah, we were
What were you doing?
driving, going to the movies.
What movie were you going to see, Ken?
Going to go see the Barbie movie.
Oh, good for you.
You know what? It was entertaining. Quit having such a cow, people, about everything they think about a movie. You got Ryan Gosling, Margot Robbie, Will Ferrell, a cast of other stars.
Okay, Ryan Gosling.
So when you're going
Will
to a
Ferrell.
movie,
It was
there's a time that the movie starts, and
Yeah.
sometimes you feel you don't even necessarily have to go quick. You feel like you have to pick up the pace a little bit.
my wife and I had decided that we were going to go and be in a little bit of character for the movie. So go ahead and laugh. I wore pink shorts and a black shirt. Okay?
Little.
Yeah. It was good. We had fun. It was a good day.
I'm not giving you a hard time,
Yeah.
bud. I'm just saying.
I can see by the look. You don't have to say a word.
Typical Shannon.
But my wife does a great Barbie, and we were having fun.
So you come cruising down.
We're a little bit late because we had to take some pictures and trying to get our daughter to take pictures and
Yeah.
So you were speeding as usual?
yeah.
Yeah. Not
And,
terribly.
and I had an alert
Yeah.
that maybe there was some activity ahead. And
And-
so
luckily,
I slowed down.
Someone else was getting pulled
yeah,
over.
and
at
you
the
know that
time.
feeling when you're speeding and you know there's potentially a police officer and then you say, oh, they got somebody else. I'm good right now.
Yeah.
I shouldn't even talk about this on the air. But as I drove by, I apologize in advance to every other owner of this type of vehicle. I said, oh, they got pulled over in a Prius. That's embarrassing. That's
Yeah.
what I said to my wife. And we had a
They're
laugh.
pretty fast.
We had a laugh about it. We chuckled. And as we're pulling in, I look in my mirror. And who do I see in my mirror but a Minnesota plated Prius with a friend of mine in behind the wheel.
Who had just gotten his first ticket since 1996.
So we pull in the parking lot. He's walking across. We parked far on the other side. I was driving a different car Chris hadn't seen. And kind of surprised that one with him too. And so we're walking from the other side of the building as I parked off to the side. And here comes Chris from the middle of the parking lot. I go, hey, was that you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to take our picture by the marquee? But I'm late for the movie. How late? Chris,
Not at all.
were either one of us late for the movie?
no,
After 20 minutes of previews,
I had
right?
25 minutes of
We
previews.
walked in with the lights on yet.
Yeah. Yep.
They
Yeah.
hadn't even turned the lights off yet.
Yeah. The cop was so nice. He was like, he goes, hey, I pulled you over because you were going a little quick. And I go, yeah, sorry about that. I didn't notice. And this is true. I'd just gotten off the interstate going 80.
Yep.
And
Which is
yeah.
the legally posted
Yeah.
speed limit on that interstate.
And so he said, he goes, where are you going? I said, I'm going to a movie that starts in 2 minutes. And he goes, it's not the Barbie movie, is it?
You said, no,
I
I'm
said-
letting you go.
I said, no, I'm going to see Oppenheimer. He goes, okay, I'm going to get you there on time. I'm going to give you a ticket, but I'll make it quick. I'll be right back. And I was like, okay, that's pretty.
So what was it you said to me across the way? Your first ticket since what?
1996.
See, and
What was that one for?
and Tammy and I both thought you said you were going 96.
Right. And
And
she's
we're
like,
like-
well, you didn't have to go in?
And then bad
I can tell you that'll get you in.
Yeah.
bad experience, bad hearing, and a good imagination are a dangerous combination.
Yeah.
But you know what? I heard that you, just to put a bow on this, you had texted me an hour after we were done with the Barbie movie, and we were already downtown. Ran into one of our original hosts, Dave Holly, and sat and talked with him for a long time. He got seated right next to us at the bar seating we were at. That was fun talking to Dave and his wife. But you texted me, it would have been about an hour later, and said Oppenheimer was a great movie.
Great movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Barbie,
I mean, it wasn't worth $137, but it was a great movie.
that was your most expensive movie ticket yet.
That was pretty much, yeah. I think my ticket's $126 or something. He said, he goes, I knocked it down to the lowest category. You're all good to go. Just
And we were entertained by the Barbie movie. Yes, was it feminist? Yeah, it was a Barbie movie. What'd you expect? Ken Gosling or Ryan Gosling, Ken doll. He's always been an accessory.
Yeah.
Ken's been an accessory his whole life. Why should it be any different in the movie?
Which you.
Yeah, I'm a great accessory. I'll be an accessory.
Yeah, you were that night.
Yeah.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Mark. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Mark, what can we do for you?
Good morning. I've got a 2019 Ford Edge that we purchased a few months back, and I talked to a dealer about a problem that I thought was a problem, and it turns out to be nothing out of the ordinary, but I just wanted to get your opinion on it. During acceleration, it has a hesitation of until you're going up through the gears, and they really tromp on it, and then it snaps out of it. They said it's a turbo issue that's common in that year. What do you guys think?
So you got the 1.6 in there?
No, it's a 2.0.
2-liter turbo.
EcoBoost.
Oh, okay.
EcoBoost, yep.
They've had numerous turbo issues in all the cars with small engines and turbos on them. That's been an issue. But what we have seen is that turbo issue sometimes is followed by an engine issue. So if you got a turbo problem, you want to get that fixed. If something comes apart in that turbo and gets into the engine's done, and then you'll have to replace the engine.
Let's back up here, though, before we go full catastrophic here. How many miles you got on this car?
That's about 95,000.
That's about where we see them.
And has it had this condition pretty much its entire life, and you've been bugging them about it, or is it something that's developed later in its life?
Since we've owned it, and that's only a few months back, but
Okay.
The dealer told me that's a common issue or something that you just have to live with in that particular year.
Well, I guess what I want to understand, and this is where I think Russ is going down a path that we've seen plenty of times. So I know where he's at.
I got two sitting there right now.
I know, and we sell a lot of engines. But I just before I go down that road, I just want to make sure if he's demonstrating, if you've never had a turbo car before, you can sense a little bit of turbo lag.
Very little on those.
And just a little bit of differentiation of shifting just that comes with that turbo lag. But the cars now are so refined with a 19 Edge like that, they're not trying to design it where you have to notice it. They're trying to take advantage of that smaller displacement, better fuel economy, giving it the turbo boost to get you the power that everybody's looking for and keep the weight down with a smaller engine. And that's what they're trying to accomplish. They engineer the crud out of it to make it smooth. They want that boost to come on smooth. So depending on how much you're feeling could make the difference on, like Russ is saying, whether those turbos are actually starting to show failure in whether it be the turbo themselves, the wastegates on the turbos, which they're all kind of an integrated unit. Is it something that maybe can be cleaned up a little bit if you start using do a professional fuel injection cleaning and emission systems cleaning? We've seen sometimes where you can get these things to come back a little bit because they just get suited up. There's some of these vehicles that we're starting to see that there's people that are physically doing removal of parts and physical cleaning because of what happens inside of them, and then they can kind of get things back. But I would ask to drive another one that's newer with the same package and just see how that feels compared to what you just bought. And because the dealership has got enough experience with those. If they thought it was a failure coming, I would hope they would say, no, this doesn't seem normal at all. Versus, you're starting to show a little turbo wear. It should be okay. Drive it until it gets worse, that sort of a thing. But like Russ has described, how long does it go from where I'm starting to feel something to all of a sudden this has gotten incredibly worse?
Well, it could be that the turbo's just starting to fail and you're feeling something, and then the turbo fails and doesn't boost anymore and never causes an engine problem other than it's falling on its face. And then you get a new turbo and you're good. Or something could come apart in the turbo and go into the engine and kill something. But when they're starting to fall on their face like that, if it really is a turbo issue and it doesn't have the boost it's supposed to, it should be turning a check engine light on that says low boost condition. if there's a pending code in there for that, I would scan it. If there's a pending code that's coming and going on that, it's time to replace the turbo in it.
Mark, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. This is a question that I don't want to cast any aspersions or offend anybody, but are there times where you get a different answer if you take it to a different dealer? Is there ever a time where it's advantageous to take it somewhere you didn't buy it?
I hate to say this out loud, but the dealer that, if you bought the car as a used car from a dealer, they may be slow to analyze versus someone else you're just bringing it in for service.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I was.
They might just be slow to analyze because they're thinking, you just bought this. Maybe this is a little bit different to you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's cool it down. And then in the back of their mind, they could be thinking, we don't want to have a warranty here. Is this really a problem? Let's let this customer settle into this car for a little bit. And if it was just going in for service, they might say, yeah, this is something we see. Yes, yeah. I think there can be two perspectives, which I hate that it is that way, but there can be. I would also recommend, Mark.
But I do it when I make supper. If I make it too salty, it's fine. It's fine. Just eat it. It's a little bit salty. Yeah, big deal.
What if I make it for you?
Well, that's too salty.
There you go.
Yeah.
But I also would recommend, if you're not, make sure you're using a recommended high-octane fuel in that vehicle.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yep.
If you're not already doing it, give that computer and that system its best chance to perform correctly by not having to have the computer adjusting for detonation because you're using a lower octane fuel. Try using I'm telling you, go try using an E30 in it once and see if it performs any differently.
Even a couple tankfuls to make sure you're...
Yep, you're going to get a lot higher octane. That might even clean a little bit because of the higher alcohol content, and it's not going to hurt the vehicle. Just try it once.
866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. I have seen some news come in that I saved for this show.
This very show.
I was almost going to text you guys, and I thought, I'll save it because that makes more sense. It was like Tuesday I saw this. The number one selling car worldwide for the first quarter of this year. Any idea what it is? 2023.
The Toyota Corolla.
It's a good guess.
It seems like it always is. You bring that up a lot.
The Toyota Corolla normally
would be it,
but it was beaten this time for the first time in a long time, especially since the Corolla has the wagon, you got
to think of all the cars we look on the road. What do you see the most of?
I want to get this one right, and I don't want to give an answer that's foolish. But I'm afraid I'm going to give an answer that's foolish.
But the Corolla was number 2. That's a good guess. Toyota Corolla was number 2. And
was it during the period or since what'd you say? For
first quarter of 2023 worldwide.
We're talking a car, though, right? It's a car?
It's yes.
It's not an SUV.
He paused.
No, it's a car.
Mm.
And it's also the best selling. I mean, it's not, there's no qualifiers here. It's the best selling vehicle first quarter of 2023.
I don't even have a guess.
Going beyond the Toyota Corolla is you get back into maybe
I think of a lot of cars, but
and here's why I'm surprised.
Number one seller.
Is it electric?
Model Y. It's the Tesla Model Y sold 267,200 units, an increase of 69% from the last year. It performed strongly in China. It was up 68% in the United States. And in Europe, it was the top-selling vehicle for the first quarter of 2023.
Worldwide. Okay, I still wouldn't have guessed it, but worldwide, now that makes sense because there are countries over there that are saying no more gas. Just done.
And it was up in it was up in the United States and in Europe and in China.
That is noteworthy.
Yeah.
I actually put a note in my book about that with today's date.
I saw the headline.
You brought that up.
I saw the headline of the article and I thought, I better read this article and see. And it's just straightforward.
Especially if we went back, let's say even 5 years, and when people remember when we just mentioned the car. We weren't saying we're the biggest fan of it. We said, yeah, it's cool. The technology's cool. We like it. And then people would email and say, oh, those things are junk and you're stupid and it'll never it'll never be a good car, and who's going to buy them? They're losing money on every one they sell. They're going to be bankrupt in 6 months. And now they got the number one selling car in the world.
That's crazy.
And I would, if you
is weird.
would have told me it was electric, because that was my only really thing I guessed there was electric.
Then we would have guessed different.
I don't know that I would have guessed a Model Y either.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know that I would have either. I would have
guessed maybe a Model 3 or something. I would not. But that Model Y is basically, they've made a smaller version of the Model X.
Right.
You know, it's not that. I mean, but that's what I think of when I see it.
Right. I think
when you don't see them together, a Model Y looks a lot like a Model X.
Like Agreed. A Vibe looks like everything else.
Yeah, right? Looks like a Vibe.
Looks like a Vibe.
866-594-4150. What's funny is you
the
guys
Vibe
both
does look a lot like the Model Y.
You guys make fun of me for that Vibe comment. And
I don't. I just go along with Shannon.
But it's fine, except that I get more right every day. The further out we go, the more it looks.
You do, because the Vibe looks, if you took a Model Y and a Vibe and you covered up the headlights and you put them 500 feet away, you'd be like,
When I used to make this joke and we would look at pictures 5 years ago, I wasn't as correct as I am now, that it looks like a contemporary vehicle.
I'm done.
Let's talk to John. You're on the Under the Hood show. John, what can we do for you?
Yeah, I got a 2017 Ford Taurus Limited. The air conditioner will turn on and turn off on its own when you're driving down the road.
All right, what's going on?
And
we
and the right side, like where the sensor is when a car passes you, that'll come on and off on its own as well.
Okay, what type of infotainment center does it have in the dash? What type of screen does it have? Is it just a tiny one with the knobs, or does it have a full screen in there, touch screen?
It's got the full screen, full touch screen.
Okay. We've seen this problem with this car with multiple things that related around in the cars with this system, and there's two components to it. You've got the touch screen in the dash, which can be problematic, but also you've got a module under the passenger side of the dash that is part of this interface as well, and we've seen problems with both of them. And when we work on it, we've seen them in the Edge, we've seen them in the Ford Flex, and when we've worked on these, sometimes just tapping on the edge next to the screen on the dash, they'll do all sorts of wacky things, and then we know the screen's got a problem. If that doesn't do it, we pull that lower panel off under the glove box on the passenger side, and we just give a light tap around, and if we tap on that, there's a big flat module under there. If you tap on that or move the wires around, if it acts up there, we know it's in there. Haven't really seen a lot of programming issues with them. It's been more of a hard fault when they do fail, but they can just do all sorts of wacky stuff. We've had wipers; they'll just wipe by themselves out of the blue. Like, what happened? Did the wipers just move? I think so.
It does that too.
Yeah, that's usually more that module under the dash, because the radio cannot control the wipers, but it can backfeed and give weird messages, giving you that passenger presence warning over there for the blind spot.
There you go. Blind
vehicle
spot
in your
monitor.
lane. Watch out.
Yeah. So I would pull that panel off under the dash, tap on the modules under there, and if you tap on one and it acts up, look at the part number on it, put it into Google, and it'll pop back and tell you what module it is. It's got to be programmed when they install it, no matter what it is. But yeah, find out which one of those. There's a couple different ones it could be, but yeah, I'd lean that way. It's not
Well, sounds good. We've had it for about a year, and we got it for a good deal. And yeah, I was a mechanic myself for 11 and a half years, and I was just been bumping my head on it. Couldn't figure it out.
We had a person in a previous episode called in with a 20 Ford Edge that his air conditioning could physically shut the system off, and it was turning back on its own. Russ was going to do some looking into that one. So in your case, with your air conditioning coming on and off, is it physically shutting all the way off, or is it just the...
Yeah. No, it physically shuts the screen down. Everything shuts off, and you got to pull over to the side of the road, shut the car off, turn the car back on, and then you can, when everything reboots up, then you can turn the air conditioner or the heater, whatever you're using, back on.
That's what we experienced with that symptom you're having too, with that type of vehicle.
That is one of the, as someone who's had to go through that, the frustrating thing about whatever you want to say as an old person, back in the day, when a switch broke, it could be the switch, or it could be physically the switch, or it could be a wire off. But now, when everything comes through the touch screen, when the touch screen if something goes bad in it, it can screw up everything. And the only thing you can do is replace that. Like all that happened to me was my stereo stopped working. The sound, everything else worked great, but it was a $1,300 repair to put in a new screen or literally just get the stereo put in as an auxiliary unit. It was, so when you do that, you get that, when everything runs through that screen.
That was years ago. We can fix that now. We could take yours out and put the factory one back in for probably $300.
You still got it? Did you keep it?
I didn't take it out.
No, you didn't. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. What's caught your attention in the automotive world besides you seeing people getting pulled over?
Well, this week I've just, had kind of a crazy week. And so I've been focusing on some things going on in our industry, being the advocate for our trade association and getting involved with that position. And there are, things going on. We're going to have a legislative summit coming up here next week. And so for our upcoming episode, I'll be gone and you guys are going to have to carry my little bit of weight in the show that I carry for me for that week. And getting ready for that legislative summit and just the number of issues that are out there that involve us as auto recyclers, whether it be bills that involve catalytic converters and theft, which has tailed off a little bit. The feds have busted a lot of people, which is really good.
Yeah.
And they've cut some pretty big chains of custody down to figure out where this is coming from. Plus, the price of the materials has dropped like a rock.
Yeah.
So I think it's not as desirable for the thieves right now. And there's issues out there in regards to the Right to Repair Act, and there was a recent settlement between the Alliance of Automotive Manufacturers and the ASA, and it opens up a portal for independent repair shops to receive repair data and telematics information and everything. There was a memorandum of understanding written. Once again, those things are great to see. It's a positive, I believe, but it'll be yet to be seen what that means in the matters of dollars and cents and consumer usefulness.
Well, they're going to make us pay for it.
Yeah.
We've got it just an unlimited amount of stuff, it seems like now. I mean, I'm paying well over $1,000 a month to have a management program where I can take your name, put it into my computer, and store it now forever with your invoices. Plus, add on to that, being able to print out key tags and oil change stickers, and then they have a whole host of other stuff. Do you want a kiosk where a customer can check in when they come in on your front door? Well, that's another few $100 that you pay every month, and then you update your scanners, and we're getting like the scan tools. Well, just update your scanner. Well, now we're $99 a month per scanner to update a few of them, and more on other ones, or thousands of dollars every year.
Well, it's kind of went in a cycle because it used to be you'd pay for a yearly thing and you'd get this.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's went more a la carte, but they're starting to go back to more monthly service charges.
Now
so
monthly or per car per day for programming, so they just jack it up. So now they'll say, well, we're going to offer you telematics info, and it's only this much a month. And we're like, oh, when does it?
So they're gonna make but this was a monumental thing, but so our trade association is monitoring that from the recycler standpoint. And so my head has really been deep in a lot of that stuff along with our normal business here. But it's interesting as we get ready for the summit, just the number of different issues that affect an auto recycler also affect an independent repair facility.
Right.
They affect the consumer. They affect the auto dealership. That whole world is so intertwined. It's crazy. So that's the stuff that has really caught my attention as we get ready for that summit.
I had a question that is I think this applies to most of the nation right now, because someone asked me a couple days ago. We talk a lot when it's in our home area, when it's very cold, people call and ask about the cold on their car.
How does it get so cold?
Do I need to plug it in? Do I need to?
But
when we're talking about
yesterday,
heat like we have, I mean, we're having...
It was hotter here yesterday by 1 degree than it was in Dallas.
We're having that.
And the humidity was
same
40% more. So
heat
my
wave
sister said, why do you still live there?
Yeah.
When it's when it's just as warm in July as it is here, and in January it's 50 below there and it's 50 above here, you should just move back. And
so what's the question?
The question is, when we get heat like this, is there anything we should be doing differently or can do differently? Does this harm our cars when it's 100 degrees? Does it harm our cars? Is there anything that we should be doing? In the winter, we talk about, do you need to start your car and let it run? And we talk about letting it heat up until the idle drops or whatever level we talk about. But in this heat, is there anything we should be doing?
Well, my daughter's in Phoenix, and so she's down there baking down there. Somebody put a social media post out, a friend of mine, and it said, God, whatever you're baking, it's done.
Yeah.
You take it out of the oven now.
They've had that record.
Currently in Dallas, it's 90 degrees
Mm-hmm.
and it's 48% humidity. And here in our humble little town, it's 90 degrees and 61% humidity. And we're way north. And folks, this isn't like a global warming problem here. This is what happens
This is summer.
at least a little bit now and then every year. And we've had it hotter. We've had
Phoenix
it well over
today,
100.
it's 178. Yeah, it's
But
warm
okay,
down
let's
there.
get to the vehicles.
But it's a dry heat.
Let's
Dry
get to the
heat.
vehicles. She actually said that's kind of true when she came home and said, "Gosh, sticky."
Yeah.
And she got back down there. It was one of the
Vehicles-
117-degree days, and she said, "Yeah, it's hot."
No way around
It's
that.
hot.
Yeah.
But
Car's engine runs at about anywhere between, say, 205 to 230 degrees normally. That's its normal operating temperature. So the outside temperature, what's that's going to affect? Well, the car has to get rid of that heat. If it can't get rid of the heat, it's going to start going up. It's exactly like a person who's too hot. 103 is hot. 104 is pushing it. 105 can be deadly. So
Right.
a couple degrees with a car that's normally made to run at one temperature, a few degrees, you start really getting over that point. And you've got to dissipate the heat, and humidity makes a difference too, in what it can dissipate out the radiator. So as long as a car is a modern car, anything built within the last, let's say 15 years.
yeah, I was going to say 20. I was curious to see what you were going to say.
15 to 20 years should be able to handle outside temperatures, even in very high humidity, all the way up to probably, 105 degrees without really a lot of issues driving normally. You're just normal driving, not pushing it real hard and racing it, not pulling a big trailer. But, yesterday I was hauling a trailer that was probably totaled 9,000 pounds behind my truck in 100 degrees and humidity, or it's close to 100 and humidity, and it wasn't running hot. The air was not quite as cool when I'd be parked and stopped because it was, roaring a lot of heat through there trying to dissipate it. But as soon as I moved a little bit, it was fine. That's a very old vehicle. That's 30 years old. But you get into the new vehicles, I hopped in my wife's vehicle, which was an 04, and it was perfect. Sitting at the stoplights, the air was like, it could turn it down. It's too cold. It was chilly in here. So, yeah, Chris, the cars I think the cold is a lot worse, even on newer vehicles than the heat is.
You got to make sure that you've got your surfaces protected. I mean, I think that's one thing that you get in trouble if it's super
Sunscreen?
hot. Those sunscreens in the
I
windows
do that all
are
the
not a bad idea. Because you got so much ambient temperature coming into that cabin. So the seats can be burnable hot to you. The steering wheel can be burnable hot. Your sunglasses, if you happen to leave them laying on the dash, don't put them right on your face. Just learn that the other day again.
Yeah.
It's that thing. But Russ mentioned, the airflow is so hot, your air conditioning may not perform as well in traffic.
Especially if that condenser is dirty. If you've got a lot of bugs and dirt buildup between that condenser.
This is where you'll
radiator,
notice it.
And this is where you'll destroy your AC system.
That's the things you run into is if you're not getting good airflow.
When I tell people your AC overheated, no, my temperature never no, your AC system overheated and you ruined it. It had nothing to do with your engine temperature. There was no air moving through the condenser, which is your AC system's radiator. And when there's no air moving through that, pressures go up.
Yeah, explain, Russ. Just take a minute or two and explain that system and why that is so important.
You're not blowing cold air inside. When you feel the air coming out of those vents, it's not cold air that's being produced to to blow, and your people are going, "You're crazy, Russ. What are you talking about?" No, it's heat being removed. So as the hot air in your car passes through the evaporator inside, the refrigerant that's moving around in that, it transfers the heat from the air through the metal, that aluminum of that the evaporator inside, into the refrigerant inside, and then that refrigerant is now being passed,
pulling the heat away.
The compressor's moving it all, and it's moving to the front of the car, where now it's transferred because it's hotter than the outside air. So it is now being transferred with the help of the radiator cooling fans and the condenser fan out into the atmosphere, and it's blown away. If you don't have proper airflow up there,
because you have to get that cooled down before it goes into the compressor, or you're just going to cook your compressor.
And we're talking a lot of temperature up there, well over 200 degrees. And if it doesn't get removed, all the parts in the compressor start to melt, and little pieces of metal start floating through the system, and then it starts clogging itself up. The pressures go even higher, and the system just explodes. It's done, and it gets very expensive. So if you find yourself ever driving and you come to a stop and your AC doesn't work good when you're stopped, but it does when you're moving, that's typically an airflow problem. I don't care how hot it is outside, unless you've got a checkbook that allows you to replace the entire system at a cost of $1,200 to $2,500, turn it off and go get it checked. Just push the AC button, shut it off, put the windows down, pretend it's already broken. Otherwise, it's going to cost you more money. And I get this. Sometimes people come in and they'll tell me, "Hey, Russ, my AC system's not working real good."
Can you recharge that for me?
It's not working real good, and I need to come in. I can get it in a couple weeks. Okay, well, I'm looking at the temperature. I see it's going to be in the high 90s the next couple weeks. Don't use it, because if you're having a problem with it, don't use it. Then they come in and say, "Well, yeah, I had to use it because it was hot, and well, now it's stopped working." And I say, "Yeah, I see what's going on with it. It's going to be $1,800. What? Why? I thought you said maybe it just needed to be recharged." It didn't just need to be recharged. Then I can see you got a couple seals leaking. There's AC oil all over everything. We probably could have recharged it so the refrigerant would have moved that oil around in the system, but now you've used it and you've overheated it and you've killed it. So if you want to save money, shut it off. Get in, get it checked.
Boy, do I not understand that the cooling at all. I know that if I spray a can, it gets cold.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
evaporation.
that's it. But that's the extent of what I understand. If I spray this, it gets cold. That's it.
When you spray it, gas comes out, gets cooler. But with an AC system, you're recovering the gas coming out and you're recycling it over and over.
It's like I'm holding that can against my face.
Yep, but you're sucking that gas back in and putting it back in the can and keep spraying it.
Just keep. All right.
Yep. High to low pressure.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to John. You're on the Under the Hood show. John, what can we do for you?
I'm just going to expand a little bit on the gentleman you talked to earlier with the Edge and the 2.0.
Okay.
Yeah, great. What do you got? What are you thinking about the whole deal?
Well, I have an 18 Edge with a 2.0. My wife has a 19 Escape with the 2.0. I've got 100,000 miles. She's got 30,000 miles. And as you mentioned, I can feel a little more snap to the newer one. But also talking about that, I've on E15. I went for about a month and 4 tankfuls of E30 through it. And I really didn't find any significant difference. I thought maybe I went from about 26 miles per gallon down to 24 and a half. But as far as it running or anything, I thought it was just the same as it was with the E15.
Okay.
Are you a aggressive driver, would you say, or are you a pretty normal, calm driver type of thing? Well, how would you describe your driving style?
I'm pretty calm.
All right.
I run down side roads a lot of times about 50 mile an hour. And once a month I make a trip to Sioux City. So I'm running about 75 then.
Yeah.
That's what I did with comparing the E15 to the E30.
Yeah, no, that's a good comparison. But if a person is pushing these things a little bit harder, that's when you start noticing the potential to get some detonation that the computer is going to sense. and that's where the higher octane of those higher blends would come into play.
It's also where you'd feel a normal turbo lag too.
Yeah.
If you're stepping on it a little more. I mean,
Yeah,
if you're
definitely the way a person drives one of them can make a big difference. And well, I appreciate you calling in and giving us that's some pretty good input from your side of the fence. That's for sure.
Yeah, thank you, John. 866-594-4150. We also the transmission call from earlier.
Last week we were talking about one that while towing, it squeaks.
Mm-hmm.
And when not towing, it does not. And I was surprised. Occasionally we'll have a call come in, and like when we talked about ZDDP, it was like, boy, I got all these emails and calls about it after the show. I was like, boy, that people were touched and they wanted to know. And certain batteries, they're like, oh, well, mine has that, and they wanted to know about that. Well, in this case, we had a bunch of people call in and say things like, I wonder if he's got something loose on his trailer. Does he have a hitch? Because one guy said, I had a hitch that was loose and didn't even know it. So thankfully, somebody said, hey, check your hitch, and it was loose on the frame. And another one said, it was a trailer I had. The springs on my trailer were squeaking when I would tow. I noticed that, but it sounded like it was from the back of my truck.
And this was Chris with his 15 F350 dually Power Stroke, right?
Right. Yeah, the newer one. So Paul called in from Paul's Transmission in Baker City, Oregon, and said, hey, I've got I know this. I've had this happen before, and there is a fix for it. So thanks to Paul for letting us know that there is a fix for that. So get it into your local trans shop, or if you're in Baker City,
go see Paul.
Go see Paul. But yeah, he called it clutch squawk in this. So I actually talked to some Ford people here, and we were discussing different things, and they're like, we have no idea what's going on. So it's good to know that sometimes the people out there in the aftermarket find out more than the people at the dealerships do.
For
because
sure, yeah.
the people at the dealerships are still working on stuff under warranty and things like that, and they don't really have a chance to dig into what could be, outside issues once they're out of warranty, and until they're a little older. So
yeah, and this was a 15 F350 with 104,000 miles on it that Chris had that he was asking us about, and he just get this. He called it a chirp or just a noise
just while towing
under certain pressures, and
it sounds like a clutch squawk.
Yeah, I remember Russ said, hey, "Load her up."
Yeah, that's how you
bring it in with the trailer on when you have them listen to it.
That's definitely how you diagnose it. You put the trailer on, you duplicate the condition, whatever it is, and get it in whatever that vehicle is, and try to show it so they can hear what's going on.
And Paul said it's very fixable, is what he told in his message. So now I don't know if anything's very fixable with enough money, but he made it sound like a solution. Like, we can take care of that probably in the vehicle is how I felt, and they put it. So
more automotive news. I heard something the other day, and I was interested. I was like, how are you going to do that? So I asked somebody who definitely knows. So UPS just settled an issue. We don't get into politics of stuff, but
no, they had a disagreement with their labor union. They had a disagreement with their labor union, and it's a lot of people were worried about it.
But we get into how does it affect your car? Well, the part that I heard that really stood out to me was they're going to put air conditioning in all of its vehicles. I was like, oh, that's a lot of trucks. How do you get? I'm thinking, they're going to be calling us and everybody else around to get all this air conditioning. So I asked the guy who definitely knows for a fact, and I said, well, when are they going to start putting the air in? He says, the end of the year, when we sell off all those, or get rid of all those trucks, we're going to replace them all, because they thought about that. They're like, well, we've still got some good ones, and they're like, nope, you just replace them all with new ones, because we have done this. We've put in air conditioning in vehicles. The Nissan Hardbody, when those came out in 86.5, that was one of them that you could buy super cheap. You remember that, Chris? No radio, no air conditioning. If you wanted to buy like a Geo Metro or a Hardbody, you're like, well, I'm getting the Metro because that Hardbody is another $29 a month. And you're like, that's too much. You remember that when things were affordable like that? So we would put air in them. And the air would come in a box, and that was really common for foreign cars. You'd get a box, you'd open it up, you'd punch out a couple holes, you'd bolt on some parts and put the button in the dash, and you had AC. Well, I was thinking maybe they'd be doing that on these big vehicles. That was a cakewalk. You'd make so much money in that. A guy could drop AC in a Nissan in like an hour. We'd bolt it on and have the thing vacuuming down as we were finishing putting everything together. By the time we were done with the last wire and nut and bolt, we'd hit the button, charge it up, boom, out the door it went, and it would pay, many hours at the dealership to do that. And then as far as radios go, we were at Dashboard Electronics, me and old Daryl Meyer, we could put a radio, 2 speakers, and an antenna on one of those in like 10 minutes. We would go to see how fast we could get it done, and it'd pay you an hour and a half on everything. They just said, this is what it pays.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out how to do it. The first one took 2 hours, and then by the time we were done, it was under 10 minutes. We were fast at them.
I found it was interesting that they're going to also figure out a way to cool down the cargo areas of the vans too via air conditioning or just venting, because it gets up to 140. I think.
I'm kind of curious on, you think of where the future is going with delivery vehicles. Everybody is definitely angling towards, or at least considering how they're going to get to an electric platform.
Mm-hmm.
They just added another degree of difficulty to the battery life situation.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
I wonder if those two things, somebody thought of that.
I did hear him talking about that solar venting for reefer vans has been going on for a long time. So if it's in your parking lot all day long and it's not even attached to the truck, the solar panels on the roof can run fans and drop the temperature by as much as 50 degrees just continuously with nobody touching it.
All right, this weekend, big weekend for Nordstrom's.
We've got a lot going on. It's Nordstrom's night at Houston Speedway on Sunday night, July 30th, and we're going to have a candy toss with big candy. We're not I got pictures on social media. We're talking you might get a Snicker bar here, a full-size Snicker bar.
Yeah.
You get hit in the head by it, so be careful. Kids 10 and under, it's going to be raining candy. We've got a special designed 3 sets of cornhole boards that are going to be raffled off, and this is for our teammate Darcy Prinz, who's battling cancer.
Mm-hmm.
All the proceeds for these raffles are going to go to Dig In for Darcy and Darren and their family as she battles cancer. She's sold parts for us for 20 years. We want to help her out as much as we can. We've got big money for the late model street stocks. They're moving the late model street stock challenge that got rained out last week to the race here on Sunday night. And then there's going to be a pole position drawing for kids 10 and under. You get a ticket when you come in,
okay,
and you could get chosen to be on the front straightaway with the Outlaw Sprint Car drivers as they draw for their position in the race. You're going to draw for which of 8 cool toys you get to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of other things going on that night for Nordstrom's night at Houston Speedway. Dig In for Darcy. They're also doing a benefit for Darcy in Sherman at Mike's Bar on August 4th, Saturday. And so we'll have some flyers up about that. And if you want to help, hey, if you can help, great. If not, I understand. One of our listeners, Dean Winslow, just dropped off a check as he met you in the parking lot. That was really nice, Dean. That's for Dig In for Darcy, too. Looking forward to seeing you at Houston's.
That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. Thanks for joining us. You can find us at underthehoodshow.com. All right, no after show today. We got stuff to do, so there's no after show.
Should we go just a little bit longer since we didn't have a beginning show?
No. I'm just kidding. What? No.
Sometimes not everything goes perfect.
That's true. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't here. How'd it go?
Just Russ and I got talking, and
next thing you know,
it's like, oh, there's a radio show supposed to be on the air.
That happened to me once this morning, too.
Did it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. And then I got my phone's not on, but I had a text from my mom and my wife that you're not on. And so
I feel bad that I wasn't available to hear that when it was going on. That would have been validating. I would have liked to have heard that.
Well, thankfully nobody else called and heard it either.
I'll hear about it tomorrow. I'm sure.
I don't know. It's weird. It's like we were actually on the air quicker than if we would have played the full intro and the music.
Yeah.
But there was no intro and there was no music. It was just like
we were here.
I'm starting at 8 after.
All
Wait
of a sudden
second.
we're here.
Okay, 6:07. 8.
You were texting me too late to get a blizzard.
We were
is what was
trying to
going
get
on.
blizzards
We
from you.
just assumed that you would just bring something.
I asked twice.
You
I didn't know.
ask. I didn't get
did.
anything.
Yeah, I texted last week and said I'll be at Miracle Treat Day. Let me know. your
Have I
blizzard
ever
order.
been picky?
No, but I didn't. No, but you've been fit. I mean, there's been times when you haven't wanted the blizzard, when you're like, no, I'm eating vegetables today.
I'm going to keep busting his nuts over here, but yeah, I'm not supposed to have one.
Ah, see? All right, that'll do it. We don't.
I would have taken one.
Because I was
Me and my
out last week.
me and
I
my
was
tapeworm
dying
would've
during the
taken one.
show.
I thought you had to fit into them pink shorts. I didn't know what was going on.
Oh, my tapeworm loves ice cream.
All right, that'll do it. We had a little bit of an after show. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later.